What's up, everyone out there? This is Jeremy Kinney here with the Awareness Revolution. I'm here at Anarchapulco in 2018 in Acapulco, Mexico. This has been a wonderful event, and I figured it would be the perfect opportunity to explain how I became an anarchist. And it's really simple, but first I have to tell you, I didn't know that I was. So really, I've always been an anarchist without knowing it. And that's really interesting, and that's what the Candles in the Dark seminar is really about, showing people, because most people are anarchists, they just don't realize it. And so I didn't know, but now I do. And I'm gonna tell you my story of how this realization came about. When I was young, I used to hate school. I'm sure most kids do. We would rather play and have fun and everything else. So I actually skipped a lot of school. I missed a lot of school even before I was skipping it. I just wasn't going to school as a kid. And as I got older, I wanted to do other things besides go to school. I rebelled against my parents. I rebelled against the school teachers. I actually skipped so much school that they took me to school for insubordination, which means, you know, they told me if I didn't go to school, they were going to put me inside of some sort of like school for bad kids where there were no girls, and that wasn't going to happen. So I ended up getting kicked out a lot, and I didn't care. So I actually ended up figuring out a way to bypass this whole compulsory school system. And what I did is I learned that they can only take you to school for insubordination if it's unexcused absences. But when you're suspended from school, it's an excused absence because they're telling you not to go to school. So our school had a program that was like punishment, like detention, but instead of after school, they would make you, even worse than after school detention, they would make you go to Saturday school. I didn't want to go to school Monday through Friday, so going to school on Saturday isn't going to happen. So I would get in enough trouble to get me a Saturday school, and then I would skip the Saturday school. And the punishment they would give you for skipping Saturday school would be to suspend you, which gave me a week off of school. And they would expect you to go to Saturday school even though you weren't going to the regular school. Now I'd show up next week after skipping another Saturday school, and they would just suspend me again. I got through an entire year that way. So, you know, I worked the system, I worked it and graduated on time, unlike other kids who didn't slack off as much as I did. I would go to school, I would get an A in the first quarter and not do a thing in the second quarter, so I'd have an F. What would happen is that would average out to be a C, so as long as I got a decent grade on the final, which would be no problem because I got, you know, I would pay enough attention to get an A in the first quarter, and I'm a decent test taker, so I was able to get a D on the final, and that would give me my passing grade. So I would do just enough to pass. And, you know, the thing is with school, I forget the numbers, but like there was a potential of like 30 different credits that you could get, but you only needed like 20 to graduate. So what I did is I would only pass the classes I needed to pass in order to graduate. And the only reason why I graduated was because my stepdad told me that if I graduated, he'd give me a brand new car, 0 miles, which of course never happened. But yeah, I mean, even my senior year, I ended up just working and only go to class one day, you know, or one class a day. So I mean, I really slacked off. I got into a lot of trouble, but by getting arrested for things that I did that I didn't feel like was a crime. I wasn't bothering anyone, you know, just driving around a lot. I would get hassled, harassed, just by the police because of a young guy in a car with rims, tinted windows. You know, they would stereotype, profile me as they was driving by. Maybe because of time of night, you know, 2 a.m., they would just pull me over. And I realized there's something terribly wrong with this world. There's something terribly wrong with the government, that they're throwing innocent people in cages over a plant that doesn't harm anyone. And so this really turned me into basically an anti-government kind of person. And it wasn't until years later that I started researching and learning about the corruption, the systemic corruption in our government and in our financial system to oppress the people. And that's when I woke up and really became an anarchist. But it was a process. It started in 2008 when Ron Paul was running for president. I had a friend who was like, you should really look into Ron Paul. He's a congressman running for president. I'm like, no way, I don't vote. I'm not into politics. I don't believe in that, you know. But eventually he sat me down and made me watch some videos. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I agree with a lot what he's saying, and it makes sense. Great congressman. But that was it. I didn't even vote for him because, again, I was an anarchist. I was not into the whole government and political philosophy kind of thing. So time went by, and I kept learning more and more about libertarianism and limited government and the Constitution and all that great stuff that I went to school and never really learned about. I mean, I didn't understand the significance of it by going through school. I didn't understand that we weren't so free. I didn't understand that a lot of things that the country does is unconstitutional. And I started learning all this when I started getting into libertarianism. And eventually a friend gave me a book called The Most Dangerous Superstition by Larkin Rose. And what that's about is basically the belief in authorities, a superstition. The belief in authority is the most dangerous belief, the most dangerous superstition. And it breaks down, like you can't help but become an anarchist after that because you realize the problems inherent in government. Whenever you give a group the exclusive right to rule over another group, you're going to have problems. Even if people are good people in the beginning, it's like the ring from Lord of the Rings, and it's just going to draw the evil out of people. And even if it's not even there, and if there's a little bit of evil there, it's just going to magnify it. That's what government does. People get that power, and it's been shown in the experiments. I think there was even a movie based on it called The Experiment with prison guards, normal people that volunteered to be prisoners and prison guards, and the prison guards started turning crazy on the prisoners just because they were given this position of power. So that's what we have in government. It attracts those kind of people, and then with the open door, the revolving door between corporations and government, you've got this merging, and then you got people getting bribes for political favors and stuff like that. And that's the problem that we have today. And it's all being blamed on capitalism, but it's not true capitalism. Capitalism is really based on a free market, which is voluntary exchanges. But what we have today is crony capitalism. So the fascists don't want people to be free to transact on their own and do voluntary transactions, so they blame capitalism, and they're trying to usher in this collectivist idea that we know as socialism, whether it's called democratic socialism or communism, whatever. It's the same thing because it's all about the greater good for the group, and it forgets about the rights and the freedom of the individual, which is what counts. Because as long as you let a group run over one person, any kind of minority, whether it's the 51% against the 49 or the 99% against the 1, you have to protect all people. And the only way that you do that is by not playing favoritism. You have to respect the rights and freedom of every single individual. So that's what anarchy is about. It's not about chaos and bombs and looting. It's about creating a world where everyone is free, and that means freedom from government. There are no masters, there are no slaves. So that is my story of how I became an anarchist in a nutshell. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know where it's been a journey. So let me know where you are on your journey in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe because I got lots of great videos, not just of Anarchapulco coming up soon, but I've got tons more on its way. So I hope to see you in the next one.